Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Caught in a Moshcast. Here with the hardest working man in metal, Matt Harvey. How's it been, bro?
It's been good, man. 2022 has been good so far. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Of course.
Oh, no
You're
problem.
welcome. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming down.
Fuck
Yeah.
yeah.
First question we got for you is when was the moment that you knew music was meant for you?
Um,
It's a big question.
but I think when it really kind of clicked was like, it's hard, thinking back like when exactly stuff happened because I was a little kid. But when I heard Master Puppets, it was like must have been I guess December '86 maybe. I was at my
Aw.
grandparents' house.
That's a
Um,
good year.
and I just turned like 11 or whatever, and I got one of those back in the day. You used to get like 12 tapes for a penny, and then they'd sign you up and they'd send you a cassette every month or whatever.
Nice.
Um and then they changed it to CDs, or they used to have ads in like Hit Parader and Circus and all these old rock magazines. Anyway, so I got 12 tapes, and I was going through them, and it was like no, it was 87. It was 87, sorry, because the White Snake self-titled album was in there, and that came out in 87. So that was in there. Like the first Wasp was in there. Like the
Ooh.
Ozzy Randy Rhoads tribute live album was in there. Like
Ah,
there's a Dio record, I think Sacred Heart. Anyway, all this shit, and I was listening to it, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I guess I'm into metal or whatever. And then the last two I heard were Master Puppets and Peace Sells, but Who's Buying? And
Ooh.
I guess I thought they were kind of scary. So I guess I would have been either, I don't know, maybe it wasn't Christmas, but so I would have been 11 or 12. Like, it would have been the fall or winter of 87. And anyway, so I put on, everybody was asleep. I had my little Sony Walkman. And I put on Master Puppets, and the intro came on. I was like, "This isn't metal. This is like Spanish music or something." Like, my little 11 dumb self. And
what the hell?
battery started, and I heard it, and I listened to the whole song, and I was just sort of paralyzed. I stopped the tape. I remember looking around. Obviously, everyone's asleep. It's just me sitting in my grandparents' living room in the dark, like, holy shit! Like, can't believe what just happened, and like my whole perspective on what music could be completely changed. I don't know that I hadn't started playing guitar yet, but that was the minute I really like caught the fever or whatever, and that was just like, this is my thing. Before that, it was comics and tabletop role playing and drawing and stuff like that. And then as soon as I heard that record, I was like, holy fucking shit, this is a game changer.
Nice.
Hell yeah, man.
So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
go ahead.
reverse two questions real quick. The last question that I was gonna ask, I'm just gonna switch it real quick because they correlate with each other.
Oh, perfect.
Um, how did Decapitator get its start?
It was, I guess it was like the mid 90s, like 94, 95. And we've been playing in Exhumed, it's like a high school, like local band or whatever, for a couple of years. And the whole scene at that time was really changing. Most of the bands that I was really into as far as death metal kind of either were breaking up or not really playing like what I would consider to be like the same kind of death metal that I wanted to hear, at least. Like Wolverine Blues had come out, and Heartwork and Individual Thought Patterns and all these records, and they weren't really like resonating with me the same way the death metal stuff was a little while ago. And all my friends that were in the underground were into, like the Emperor, like Wrath of the Tyrant demo was going around, and like the first Dark Funeral EP, and the first Burzum EP, and the Mayhem record had come out. We all really liked that. And I think sort of my takeaway from black metal, because I was like, well, I'm not in Norway. I'm not gonna like. It's cool that you guys are burning churches, but you're also like standing in front of like Nazi flags and stuff. And I don't know if this is really for me. Like, I'm kind of into it, but what I liked about it was that they were kind of harkening back to bands that I listened to before I was into death metal, like Celtic Frost and Venom and Bathory and Destruction, Sodom, and things like that. And so that was kind of like me and our original drummer Cole. That was like our takeaway from it. And before getting into death metal, we were all like thrash kids. And so I liked I thought that metal had kind of lost the energy that thrash had, black metal and death metal. And so instead of like going out and like buying, Scandinavian like import CDs, we would go to like the record stores and buy like thrash metal LPs because they were cheap.
Oh, nice.
By 95, I mean, I kind of look back and regret it because a lot of records I bought, like, you could get like Venom records all day. And instead of spending the extra $3 or $4 to get the better condition black metal, I was like, well, I'll buy this one. It's only $5. And it's like, damn, this is only worth like $50. If I would have bought the $7 one, it'd be worth like $80 now.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to sell it, and we had a buddy that was a coworker of Cole's. He worked at a car wash. And he was still in a thrash band in like 94, 95. We're like, oh, that's kind of charming. Like, I haven't really heard people play this kind of music in years. And so we started talking about it. And typical of back then, we were all like 19, 20 or whatever. So we weren't very organized or particularly capable musically or at life. And so it took a few years, and then things kind of got rolling by about like 97, I guess. And yeah, that's how it went.
Nice.
yeah.
Very
And
dope,
then
man.
the question that follows that is, will Decapitator ever return? I keep asking this.
Like, I was bracing for this one. If I didn't hear this, I would have been shocked. I don't like to say never, because who knows? But at the same time, the thing about Decap was that it was always about me and Cole and Dan being friends. That was sort of the thing. It was never, when we were doing it, thought that thrash metal would become a viable genre. I mean, never entered our minds. We're like, oh, that's over. This is old stuff when we were kids. I don't think we had that sort of perspective on the way trends in the market work and blah blah blah, that kind of shit. We just strictly did it for fun. And I remember taking the first record to Relapse and being like, or before we did the first record, taking it to Relapse and being like, are you guys interested in this? And they're like, no. Like, why would we want to put out a fucking thrash album? And then, fast forward 5-6 years or whatever, when they signed Toxic Holocaust, and I was like, okay, it's cool when somebody else does it, but when I say it, I'm the idiot. And I love the Overdose of Death record. I think it's probably one of the best records of the last 20 years. But so it's not a diss on band or anything like that. It was just kind of like, oh, huh, okay. And by the time it sort of came back around, I don't know, Exhumed was going, and Cole was graduating from college, and Dan was starting his career as a corrections officer, so life was sort of scattering us around. Although Dan, I guess he's almost ready for early retirement. So, like I said, never say never. But to me, without those two guys, I couldn't really see it being Decapitator. It could be some other thrash band.
Right.
That's why the logo has the 3 bullet holes. And it's like 1 bullet hole for each of us. Even though
That's pretty dope.
That is
I
dope.
haven't shot in decades, but still, well, maybe 15 years. But yeah, a long
So,
time.
so
Right.
I hate to tell you this, but this podcast is sponsored by Relapse Records.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I love Relapse. I've been working with him for 20 years, but
I just pull off the shirt and it's a Relapse. You're like, I got you, fucker.
No, you just change your background and it's just a giant Relapse.
Yeah, like I take out my background. It's all like the record company behind me, and I'm like, ha. Everyone's standing behind me like,
It was a ruse.
all upset.
There's been certain times, like throughout, obviously having been involved in this scene or industry or whatever amalgamation of those two things it is for a long time, when I've approached people with ideas and they're like, that's a stupid idea. And then a couple years later, someone else does the same idea and it totally works and does great. I remember several years ago, I was talking to our old agent, our old booking agent. And I was like, I'm really into this new wave British heavy metal stuff. And like, there's a lot of people that are into it. It's like a whole groundswell of this new movement. And, I think if we did a festival in LA, like a 2-day thing, like it could really take off. And he's like, that's so charming that you're into your fucking, you know, Saxons of Pantang or whatever it is. Like, oh, it's fun, man. Cool. Come on, bro.
Hungarian.
And
I'm sitting here like in my Saxon shirt, like, come on.
and then like, you know, a couple years later, Frost and Fire happened in Ventura, and I was just like,
The hell,
I-
man.
hey,
Fun fact, I'm friends, so is Mark. Mark and I were all friends with Jarvis of Night Demon and
Oh, yeah.
Sirthungal. And I actually just contacted that very festival for my band to perform in, and they got us on the list. So I'm like, okay, cool, fuck yeah, love it.
Jarvis, you know, he's not only is Night Demon a good band, but he's a really smart dude, and he's done
Yeah.
everything really well. And you know, he's, you know, you guys said I was the hardest working man in metal, which is very kind, but I think, you know, you can make a good argument for Jarvis being the same. I mean, he's fucking,
Right.
he's a one man, you know, industry unto himself. You know,
Another dude I'd give a shout out that to is Trevor William Church of Haunt.
oh
That dude is busting
Mhm.
out album after album after album after album for like 3 bands, and it's just constant. I don't know how the hell he does it.
I mean, you know,
Like, 3 albums in like 6 months, and I'm like, dude, chill. Album a month.
album of the month club.
Album
Right.
of the
Right.
month club.
You just see his name, your name in the home list, and you're like, oh, I didn't know.
So, how did you meet the guys, whether it be former or now, of Exhumed? Of, you know.
I mean, yeah, it's there's been so many members in the band. This could be like a 5-hour answer.
Okay, we'll go with
You know-
the current lineup.
The current lineup. Okay. Well, Ross is the person I've known the longest, so I guess we'll start with him. When we were in high school, Cole, our original drummer, he and Ross went to the same high school, and I lived in the neighborhood, although I went to a different school. And I also worked at a comic book store.
Dope.
And Ross was one of our customers. And so we kind of met, you know, through Cole's high school, comic book store, etc. Ross is the same age as us, but he was a year behind us in class. I think he's actually a month older than me. Back in school, I was always the youngest kid in class. I graduated when I was 17. So Ross is like a sophomore, and we were juniors or whatever. And we first started just with comics, and we used to play the old TSR, the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game system.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's what we do on weekends. So, yeah. We did not get a lot of dates.
I was like, who would you roll as?
I know how you feel. I play Pathfinder.
Oh, I did too.
We were just friends, you know, and you know, obviously we were into this weird music, and Ross was sort of a weird guy, and then he's like, "Oh, what is this weird music?" And we're like, "Oh, this is impetigo. This is, you know, general surgery, whatever." And you know, so he got integrated into our scene, and you know, I think it was one of those things where if we in the 90s, like if you hung out with us enough, you probably just ended up in the band somehow. And you know, and there you go. With the other guys, with Hamilton, I knew him, or I met him when he was in Vile,
Nice.
in Concord, you know, East Bay, back in the 90s. And we used to play shows with Vile, and we used to play shows with Deeds of Flesh and stuff. And you know, he was always more into like the brutal death metal tech side of things. But he was always like kind of stuck out because he was just one of like the nicest guys in that whole scene. That scene can be like a little bit macho, not in like a bad way, but just in like a, you know, they don't want to talk about tabletop role playing games kind of scene.
Or just have fun.
Right. So, but Mike was always just one of the nicest guys. And, you know, I remember actually when Cole left in 2003, whenever it was, 2004, after An Enemy is Destiny, I was like, fuck, I wish we could get Mike Hamilton because he's such a good drummer and he's a really nice guy, even though we're not his tech, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, that ended up happening years and years later because I moved to the San Luis Obispo County area. That's where Mike had been with Deeds for years. So we kind of just hung out, and by that time, Deeds wasn't playing live. And I was kind of like, well, there's a Ferrari sitting in the garage over here. Somebody should take it out and drive it,
Right.
He wanted to get back out on the road. Exhumed was kind of, starting up again. And 10 years later, here we are. And I guess that leaves Sebastian. I met Sebastian when we did a tour. It was Carcass, Obituary, Exhumed, and Noisem.
God damn, that's a hell of a lineup.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a weird tour because it was a B market tour, and I think Carcass and Obituary together was the only way that they could play these sort of bigger venues, in places like Joliet, Illinois, and West Virginia, and these sort of out of the way places we were playing, and so I knew Sebastian was a good kid. I knew he was road tested, and I mean, I can say he's a kid. I'm literally like the same age as his dad. So, and we ended up jamming at his house before we played Maryland Death Fest because he lives, pretty close, like 15 miles away in the Baltimore area. And I knew he had a, studio rehearsal room in the basement of his house. So, when you get called to do these one-off shows and people don't live in the same area and stuff, sometimes it's really hard to rehearse. And I was like, well, we'll all be in Baltimore. I'll call Baz and be like, hey, can we just come to your house and jam? So we came, and I just heard him just playing by himself, and he was playing like really cool shit. And, just we were talking, and we had sort of the same ideas about like good guitar players like Richie Blackmore and Uli John Roth and Michael Schenker and not just extreme metal guys. So when Bud was kind of leaving, or just he just didn't kept being like, oh, I can't do that tour. I don't want to do that tour. I don't want to do this. And it was like, dude, well, we're going to have to, you can't, keep not doing this. Like, eventually, like, we're going to have to take somebody else. And so Sebastian was the first person that I thought of. And, that's been like, about 4.5 years now. So
Yeah.
Nice.
the same lineup, like 4.5 years. It's great.
So,
Hell yeah. All right.
what is the craziest thing to ever happen to you on a tour?
Okay, hold on. We should probably preface that was legal.
Okay, well,
Besides
Okay,
Ross's flamethrower.
yeah, I mean, this
Oh, wait, what?
wide range of stories, I guess, to choose from. This one happened so long ago, I guess it doesn't make anybody look too terrible. Must have been back and towards the end before Zoom broke up, like so 04 or 05. Leon was in the band. I can't remember if Mike was. I think Mike Beams was still there. I don't remember who was playing drums on that tour. Anyway, we're on tour. Leon was in the band. We were in Texas. He meets this cute chick. She has a less cute, can't remember, friend, sister, something. And so I sort of was the one that had to take it for the team. And I was like, all right, I'll go with the other one. And we get back to one of their, I don't know exactly, I can't remember their whole backstory. Except one of them kept going, what in the world? That was like what she would say. And then, anyway, so we get back to like the place where they live, which I think was like a trailer park or something. Anyway, so we're getting down to business, and I'm in one room and Leon is somewhere else. And as we're kind of getting closer, I was like, man, I'm not feeling this. And I was kind of sobering up after the show, and I was like, oh, girl, I can't do this. I was just like, I'm just gonna make some shit up.
You're just like, you were pretty earlier.
Really bad, but I can't stop thinking about it. I know this is wrong, just some whatever. She wasn't completely dissuaded, but I was saved by a sort of Deus Ex Machina moment when I just heard some ruckus outside. I didn't really think much of it. Leon comes bursting in the room in his underwear with his clothes, and he's like, dude, her fucking boyfriend, the other chick, her fucking boyfriend is like circling the block outside, like, we need to get the fuck out of here right now. And I was like, oh my God. So we sort of,
good Lord.
She goes out, and then the cute one and her boyfriend are like fighting, And then Leon and I go out the other door, and we're like, go back to where the van was parked, and we jump in. We're like, guys, wake up! We gotta get the fuck out of here right now. Drove off and escaped. So
That's awesome.
That's great.
Wow.
that was an evening. Yeah.
I bet
It
that was an
sounded like it.
awkward like drive away, and then like, all right, we're gonna just sleep in here now, or what are we doing?
Because the other guys were sleeping in the van. Because they're like, we don't want to go in you guys' fucking, weird sex house, whatever. Like, and so we just jumped in. We're like, wake the fuck up. And we drove out of there. We were all laughing about it. We all thought it was stupid.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
So, what inspired you to do The Last Son of Krypton?
Wow. Could be another really long answer. Well, before I got into metal, obviously I mentioned it a couple times, like comics and fantasy, sci-fi, ancient mythology, like, it's back then it was just stuff that like people would try to like start a fight with you about. Now it's like culture or whatever.
Mhm.
So that was all the stuff that I was into. And I think one of the records, a lot of the records when I was a little kid that I was really into were soundtracks.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had the Star Wars soundtrack, and then I had the teleplay where it was just like the dialogue from the movie, and you'd listen to it. And I had all those little records. There had like a Lord of the Rings one, a Black Hole one, Spider-Man one, Batman, and where it'd be like you'd have a 7-inch, you'd play it, and you turn the page kind of thing.
That's awesome, man.
And I was also, I don't know, just kind of aware of, all music, like the Ghostbusters, Footloose, all these, heavily musical movies from when I was a kid. And anyway, I just, about, I guess, 8 or 9 years ago, I started just transcribing all of our songs. Like, if we're going to play it live, I'll write out the tablature and send it to everybody so that, when we're at practice and someone's like, I thought the riff was like 1 2 1 2 4 1 1, and I was like, no, it's 1 2 1 2 4 1 4. They're like, no, that's not right. I'm like, wait, let's refer to that we get on the
it's like wait, I have the receipts.
Oh, you were right. I'm an idiot.
I do the same thing actually with our writing process. I try to tab that shit out.
Yeah, just so you have it. And the other thing, the first thing that started happening was I was able to just start writing more and more riffs, because before I can only keep about 4 or 5 songs in my head, but once I've transcribed it and I've written out, rudimentary drum parts and stuff, I just no longer think about it until it's time to record it. And then I'm like, cool, that's gone from my brain. Now I have space for whatever the next thing is. Anyway, but as I just started transcribing more and more and more and more stuff, I sort of got the idea. I'm like, you can just write music without instruments. Like, you don't need to sit there and be like, dee, 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 dee. You just write shit. And then I was like, you don't even have to write for guitar. You can just write for any instrument. And so over the years, things kind of started getting more and more complex. By the time we got to Death Revenge, I worked with Matt Widener, who used to play in Exhumed and then played in Cretin and Libertier and a bunch of other stuff, county medical examiners. And he's kind of a genius. He's like an unsung genius. He's just like a hermit and doesn't care about people's approval, I guess. So just is like, I'll just learn how to like do all this stuff and not do it. But I knew that he could do all these kind of like cinematic type productions. So I was like, hey, I have these sketches. And then he worked them up into what you hear on the Death Revenge album. And I thought, shit, how did you do that? And then we built the studio here that I'm sitting in. And then I was like, oh, I have gear now where I could also do this myself. And the pandemic hit, and I'd been kind of like writing these little melodies and themes, but I didn't really have a direction. And so I kind of needed to put it into a format that I could relate to, which is an album. And because it's sort of cinematic type music, I needed some sort of story. And Ross and I still talk about comics all the time in the van. And Ross is always complaining that the theme music for superhero movies now is too dark. It's not uplifting enough. So I was like, I had this theme that was the first song on the record, and I was like, this feels pretty uplifting. And then that sort of just was like, all right, this is like a Superman theme if I was writing Superman. So I just sort of came up with an outline of a story about Superman and then put it in musical chapters, and here we are.
Hell yeah.
I thought it was badass
That's a
though.
lot. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, I remember I bought it at the show. I was like, huh, a new project. Now I listen, I'm like, dude, this is fucking badass.
Thanks, man. It's a tough sort of sell because it has nothing to do with anything else. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all right, Decapitator, like Pounder's not too far of a stretch. If you're into gruesome, maybe Exhum's not too far of a stretch. If you're into gruesome, maybe Decapitator's not too far of a stretch. Or Scarecrow, and like this is just like totally fucking different.
Yeah,
So,
left field stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just I just do. It's the same thing I've always done. It's like, well, this is something I'm into. I've been screwing around with it. Let's see what we can do with it. I guess.
Hell yeah, man.
Quick side question. What is this from? And Mark, can you like pull it up, put it on the music
Yeah,
chat for that?
I will post into the music chat the link off Spotify for Last Son of Krypton. It is amazing.
Oh yes, that's it. Okay, I'll check that out.
So
Yeah, it's like a soundtrack with no movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
So out of everything that you have written, what is your favorite song that you have put out?
Look at his fucking scroll, just like shit.
They're all. I don't know. I mean, some of them. I was gonna say I like all of them. But that's not true. Some of them are pretty bad. I think to me, I guess the most satisfying thing is like when you try to do something and it comes out the way that you wanted it. And like, so like the first two Exhumed records, well, the first one especially, like did not come out the way we wanted it at all. I know a lot of people really like that record, which is awesome. I totally appreciate it. But it's not the kind of thing that I sit around and be like, wow, we really kicked butt. It was just like, oh, yeah, we sort of accidentally landed someplace. It was okay. So to me, it was kind of, I think one of my favorite things that I've recorded is the first Decapitator 7-inch, because we went in having never recorded that style before. We rehearsed the songs, obviously, and I don't think I'd ever actually done those vocals before, aside from just goofing around.
Right.
And we just went in, and we didn't really have a plan, as we usually didn't back then. And it just turned out like pretty much exactly how we wanted it. And I just went on the mic, then I was like, well, guys, we'll see what happens. And, I kind of had an idea of how these vocals might sound, like, but give me some direction if you don't like it. And everybody was like, no, that was perfect. Like, keep it. And I don't know. It also was a record that we just did for us. I mean, all the music I make for myself. But that one, I was like, this is not going to find an audience. It's 1997. Like, nobody in America outside of maybe me and like 15 of my friends wants to listen to anything in the vein of like Endless Pain and the first Bathory album.
Right.
And it came out the way we wanted. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, hopefully, I try not to think about things like that, because then it's a little bit like, look at me, I did so good, like I'm great. I try not to get sucked into that, because obviously if you're out here making records and promoting yourself on the internet, there's an element of that already. And so I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a little pride for your work.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm super proud of lots of stuff that I've done. I just try not to spend my time just sitting around looking back at it like, boy, remember when I did that? Wasn't that great? I'm more like, what am I going to do next? Like, what's that going to be? How's that going to go?
Yeah, you're not trying to yank at the member berries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we do that a lot. I mean, gruesome, that's all the whole band is. So it's kind
to a lesser
like,
extent, Left 4 Dead now.
Yeah.
Left to Die, you mean?
Yeah, Left to Die.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. I was just like, yeah, that. Like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing. But Yeah, I don't know. So I guess
I'm looking forward to it. So
it's gonna be fun, man. I think I was talking to Rick on the phone today, and I'm like, I think we're gonna sell some smiles, and I think that's gonna be cool.
hell yeah.
All right,
All right,
Gary,
well.
you want to continue?
Well,
All
no,
right.
you forgot one, Mark.
No, Eric.
We're-
I should wait.
Yeah,
We're
We're
not
kind of
order.
we're
skipping
already at like
some.
35
Okay.
minutes already. That's why I'm saying. That's why I've been
Go
skipping
for it
some.
then.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
gonna skip all the ones where it's like, how did Decapitator start? How did Scary Push start? How did Expulsion start? We're just gonna skip all those because it's just samey, and I don't want to for all that. So I'm gonna do. I know we know these we kind of threw all this all in one day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just questions
So
that came off the top of our heads. Just like
Oh,
a
yeah.
quick like.
I know like a lot of these questions are basic as fuck.
Because
And
we had Digester on here, and we didn't have enough questions. Now we have
Yeah,
too
we're-
many questions.
we're just like we need all the questions, all of it. Oh.
I guess I might be a little more reticent than so Plus,
Okay,
with
so
Pennsylvania as his first language, maybe his English isn't so good, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Garion?
Late on me.
Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask is, where is the farthest you've traveled for a tour?
I think, normally it's just like Europe, United States, Europe, United States. But we've gone.
Yeah.
Oh, we did Australia back in like '04.
Yeah.
We were supposed to go back in 2020. Obviously,
Yeah.
That did happen.
I remember the chick I was dating at the time. She took Ambien to help her sleep, and it was very handy because she would just give me extra Ambien for these really long flights. And we did Japan, and then we went to Australia, and I ran out of Ambien.
Oh no!
Oh.
It's like a 16-hour direct flight from Sydney to LA. And I remember we were in the absolute back row of the plane, like row like 76, so you couldn't recline the seat. And I just sat there and I think I just watched Return of the King like 4 times in a row, kind of like dozing in and out. And it was
That'll take up to 16 hours.
right. I mean, it was just I couldn't think of anything else to do at that point, because we'd done like a bunch of tours and kind of, back to back to back to back. And that was the very end, and I was beat. Like I couldn't, concentrate enough to read a book or anything. I was fucking out of it. But Australia, I think, would be the furthest. Yeah.
That's pretty dope, man.
Dope.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, we did South America in 2019. So I'm not sure which is further away, like Buenos Aires but we went to Mexico and then Ecuador and Panama and then Brazil and blah 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 and so forth. So it wasn't like we went from California to Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Side note: while he's looking for a question, didn't you? Speaking of the Mexico tour, didn't you
Oh, no.
get arrested for having a bullet belt crossing the border?
I did, yeah. We were playing a fest in Guadalajara, and actually this was like right before Ross kind of officially rejoined, but he was doing shows with us here and there, and so he was doing this show, and it was a big festival in Mexico. Like Priest was headlining. It was like Priest, Overkill, and Grim Reaper, and I think played the day we weren't playing. Anyway,
Oh
so
my God, that's a beautiful lineup.
it was great. I thought to myself, like, well, we're gonna play this show in front of like fucking, 4,000 or 5,000 people, whatever the fuck it is, and it's gonna be this big like feel good rock moment, and then we're gonna go backstage, and I'll be like, crack a beer, be like, hey bud, so you want to like rejoin the band like for real, kind of thing. I thought this would be like the perfect, like planning your proposal or something. Anyway, I just was like, well, it would be a good vibe, we'll build on the good vibe. And
Right.
anyway, so we get to the airport, pull me aside, and they're like, what is this? And my Spanish is very limited. It's mostly consists of like talking about food. And so I was trying to explain like, las boletas no es verdad. I was like, I don't know how else to say this, like they're not real, they're replica, this and that. And the guy was like, well, the caliber of these bullets only the military is allowed to have. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Just take them, throw them away. It's basura, just throw it away. And they're like, no, you have to come in and fill out some paperwork, and you have to stay overnight, but you'll get out by 9 in the morning because you realize you didn't do anything wrong. But since we found it at the airport, and apparently the previous week there had been like a big shootout between the Federalists and the cartel, so everyone was like very tense. I had no idea. Anyway, so I was like, well, all right, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. And time went on and time went on and time went on, and I didn't get out until the time I got out of jail and to the festival. Band had already played without me. It was not like the triumphant, feel-good rock and roll moment I was envisioning. The promoters for the festival were amazing. I gotta give them total props. They came, the night before. They had a guy, and he's like, "Hey, here's some food, here's some soda, blah blah blah, to tide you through." There was a guy that came to the station, multiple times while I was up. The problem was they had to get a translator, but their translator was way across town dealing with something actually important. By the time he got there, it took forever, and he was like, "This is fucking stupid. You shouldn't be here. Normally, you'd be in and out. However, you don't speak Spanish." And I was busy. And I was across town, and it's a Saturday, so I was the only person working. Sorry, bro. And then yeah. And the guys I was in jail with, they were chill. They were just drunks, So I gave them some whatever candy or whatever the fuck I had, and they were all cool. It wasn't a tough story at all. I came out, everyone's like, "So how many gangs are you in now?" And I was like, "Yeah, 7. No big deal. It's all good."
Hey, look, it's the little one.
Hi.
Eric,
Mason,
is there any way
Say hi again.
So like a ghost. It's all hazy.
I mean this.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, buddy.
He actually I bought him the chainsaw for you guys, and he actually loves it.
Oh, beautiful. That rules. I love that thing. It's so ridiculous.
This,
Right?
Garion, is a finger foam.
Yeah, you told me that, Mark, and that's why I was like, dude, I want one. I want to get one for Solar Flare.
All right, Garion, what's your next question?
We got a Canadian company called Foamworks.
Nice.
Foamworks?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll look them up.
Jason.
Eric, mute your mic.
Eric, mute your mic if you're gonna talk to the little ones.
For sure. Hold on.
All right, Garion, you're quiet.
We're professionals, I swear. So the next question I got is actually from a viewer, Jack Wilson. This is worded a little weird, but how does it feel to start a band with the guitar that
guitarist? The guitarist.
What?
Or is it bassist? Yeah.
It says with the guitar that worked with Chuck. Oh, the guitarist that worked with Chuck Schuldiner. And what tips did they give you on improving your songwriting? Okay, now I got the gist of that question. It's all messed up.
yeah, no, it's a weird sort of deal because honestly, playing with Terry and Rick and Left to Die, that was really the idea that we had before Gruesome became a thing. Gus was roadieing for Sean Reinert, and Exhumed was playing with DTA because we had the same agent. We were on tour with Suffocation. Suffocation was going to Canada. We can't go to Canada because, less of us now, but back then most of us had DUIs. So anyway, I've only been arrested twice, I swear.
I mean, we don't care either way. Fucking.
And I had done a few shows with the first incarnation of DTA, and that was a whole other long story. Gus and I were backstage having a few drinks, and I think he played Baptized in Blood with the guys, and I was like, just tell him I really enjoyed his performance because it was the fastest, most aggressive sort of song in the set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool? He's like, because I saw you with DTA in Orlando, and wouldn't it be cool if you and I did something with either Rick and Terry or James and Terry or something? We just played the first 3 records or the first 2 even. I was like, fuck, that'd be great. And he's like, well, I'll pitch it to Eric Greif. I kind of find about all of my dead friends here. Anyway, obviously that pitch went nowhere. But after he said that, as I'm just, drunk, talking shit as usual, and I was like, well, if they pass on it, I'll just write some death type songs, and you and I will make a band that sounds like death. And we just laughed, like, just bullshit talk. And I ended up doing that as a joke, and then now Gruesome became a thing. Got playing with James and Terry last month in Florida, which then led to us playing with Rick and Terry. So it's a very surreal experience. As someone who grew up, obviously a very big Death fan, a lot of the ways that I learned how to play death metal was from learning songs from the first 3 Death albums. So that's sort of ingrained in my DNA as a guitar player. And then to be up playing with guys that made those records, standing in Chuck's place is really weird. I try not to think about it too much because that's when you sort of psych yourself out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing since I was in high school. I'm here, to have fun and just play the fucking songs. And this is the umpty millionth show I've ever played. And I'll be playing umpty million after this. So it's just a thing. But when I stop and think about it, it's very surreal and, kind of intimidating. It's the kind of thing that if I went back and
Yeah.
Right.
I was 14 in my bedroom playing. Like, yeah, you're gonna do this with James Murphy for money, like someday, and like what? Like that's impossible. Like, that's crazy. So it's very weird. In terms of tips, I don't think they really. I think honestly, getting these sort of gigs with DTA and then doing the truck tribute and with Left to Die, which was not my idea. This is something that Rick came to Terry about, and then they came to Gus and I. I think that the reason I've become involved in these things, I guess, is because hopefully I've proven myself to be a guy that can sing and play guitar. And I think with Gruesome, we proved that we could make music in the vein of death,
Hell yeah.
more closely. Or I don't know that anyone has set out to do that specifically. So I was going to say more closely than anybody else, but I think we were the only one sort of, I don't know, that took it that far to be like, hey, we could make a whole record of songs that sound like these guys, like a whole tribute record. So hopefully, I've proven that I can do it, and those guys don't need to give me any tips, or at least they haven't offered any so far. So
For sure, man.
So I got 2 more. I'm gonna combine 2 of these right here into one because they're basically the same part of the same question. It's got a smaller thing. So I was told that you're a horror movie fanatic. So people wanted to ask, what's your favorite horror movie? And combined with that, other than horror movies, what are other favorite types of movies that you're really into?
I guess I just want to put an asterisk by being a horror fanatic. I love horror movies, but it's mostly the stuff that I grew up with. I don't watch a lot of newer horror because having grown up as a comic book guy, there's so much content that I never could have dreamed of having as a little kid. Like again, if you went back in time and told me when I was like 10 reading West Coast Avengers every month, like, dude, there's gonna be a 6-hour TV show just about Hawkeye. I'd be like, oh my god, that's
Yeah,
Right.
I watched that too, and I actually liked the show. It was really
I
good.
love Hawkeye. A lot of people were shitting on it, but whatever. My favorite horror movie is probably Reanimator because I think it
Yes.
a little bit of everything. It's got like over the top gore. It's got sense of humor. It's got great tits. Um, it's got zombies. It's got one-liners. It's got Jeffrey Combs. He's so over the top, like his performance.
Oh yeah, it's so amazing, man.
He's sitting there snapping his pencil. Like shit just cracks me up.
Dude's just like, do you have a question? Like, okay, finally.
It's got everything, and I think, with Exhumed, we've always sort of had a bit of a sense of humor, and I think a lot of those movies like Evil Dead 2 or Reanimator or Brain Dead, that kind of resonates with me more because, as a little kid, once I learned, when I was like 7 or 8 or whatever it was. I was like, oh, Freddy's not gonna like really pop out of my bed. I'm like, oh, this is just like watching like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, like, you know, hurt each other. It's the same sort of over the top thing, and so I love the really go for broke kind of gore stuff.
Right.
And yeah, as far as other types of movies, I love comic book stuff. You know, most of the movies, at least most of the Marvel movies, are really good. And so I watch a lot of that stuff. But I mean, I also like just, you know, regular movies.
Like Marvel's getting crazy, man. We're getting Moon Knight now. Like
That's
we're getting
right.
Moon Knight, like She-Hulk. I'm just like, man, they're starting to get into the deep stuff a little bit now, just deeper. But it's like,
Mhm.
because I didn't even know about Moon Knight until because of the show. I'm not a huge. I'm like, I didn't get into the comics. I watched like story things for all the stories of the comics on like YouTube and stuff like that, where they tell the whole story. And because of the movies, because I kind of just grew up with them. Iron Man came out
Oh
2008,
wait.
right?
Yeah.
So I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 16, and now I'm 29, and we're getting Moon Knight, and I'm just like, hell yeah, fucking let's go. Let's keep. I will do this until I die.
I mean, I'm just like a total slut for this stuff. I mean, like, I, I go every. I mean, I saw Spider-Man on like opening night. You know, the Thursday.
Oh man.
Uh, you know, the worst part about the Exhumed tour that we just did in October, November was that it prevented me from seeing Eternals when it came out. And
It's okay. It's like 7 out of 10.
you know, it's really deep. It's a deeply flawed movie, but there's a lot to like about it.
Oh yeah,
Anyway, literally the first thing I did when I got home was like go see that movie. I was like, "Fuck you guys." Like, hello, wife. Hello, dog. Cool. The 10:30
slam.
Right.
because it was still in theaters, and I was so relieved. Because you know, I feel like you need to sort of soak in the big spectacle of it all. So,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
man.
I wanted to keep going. So I'm like, you know, cool. If throwing $20 at seeing the fucking movie and buying the jumbo tub of popcorn and the beers, you know, gonna help Disney know that there's a market out there for this shit. Let's do it. The first Suicide Squad movie I saw in the theater, it was a horrible movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
the new
Yeah, it
one
was.
is great with James Gunn.
yeah, and the Peacemaker series is great too.
Hell yeah, it is.
Uh, well, hold on. This brings up a side question for me because I fucking love Marvel and all this stuff. So like, did you see the new Spider-Man?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
you
said,
mentioned it.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like, no offense. I thought you meant like the old Spider-Man when it came out, like Tobey Maguire, like first one. Like you went and saw.
maybe at least opening weekend. And I remember when I saw Spider-Man 2, my girlfriend at the time made fun of me for crying. When Aunt May was giving her speech about how there's a hero inside everybody, I was like,
Oh, dude, I cried for that, man. She's such a
Same.
good actress. But the new one, the new Spider-Man, I didn't think they would do it, but man, I cried. I was like, oh look, I was ugly crying. I was happy crying. I was just
Right. A wave
happy
of
as hell.
emotions.
Like it was a roller coaster of emotions throughout the whole movie. I was just so happy leaving that theater at the end of the night. I'm just like, it's fucking awesome.
I guess because like Far From Home is one of my least favorite Marvel movies. I think it kind of it's an enjoyable movie, but as a Spider-Man movie, I think it's a complete fail. It's like an Iron Kid or Iron Lad movie, and you know, I felt like a lot of the third movie was spent not undoing, but just changing course, finally changing to the right course, which
Yeah,
is
they
nobody
definitely
like
did.
he's a loser, he's got no fucking money, he lives in an apartment, blah blah blah. Like he's just out there sewing his own dumbass costume, just swinging around looking for some sort of animal themed weirdo to like beat up on. And that's where the character. So I mean, I'm more excited about the next one because I feel like they put the character where it belongs. It
I think that was
started,
their plan for
yeah, and
sure.
I get it with where the Marvel Universe was and the audience, you know, like to shoehorn him in would have distracted from the success that the franchise already has with Captain America and Thor and so on. So I totally get it. However, I'm like, this is what it should have been always. this is him, you know,
Yeah.
unknown, unliked, on the outside, just trying his best, being a fuck up. It's great, you know.
Yeah, I'm
Oh, yeah,
happy
man.
that they did that too, and I'm glad that they're moving him to being more independent Spider-Man than
Yeah. Tony
yeah.
Stark Spider-Man.
They did make Iron Man basically the Uncle Ben for this one, and I get it. They had to throw him in because of the deal that they did with Civil War, and they're like they didn't want to do the whole origin again and the
Thank God.
Yeah.
and like so I'm like I get it. So they're like, okay, we're not gonna have Uncle Ben, we're not gonna do the origin, so who's gonna be the mentor? Iron Man. All right, cool. Cut print. We're good. And and I'm glad that they're moving away from that. I'm excited for what they're gonna come with next. Like Multiverse of Madness for Doctor Strange, I heard is gonna be insane.
Balls in the wall,
But
yeah.
moving on, I got my last question, and then we'll move on to Eric for closing questions and all such. So, this one's low key, kind of for me a little bit. Uh, like I would have, because I kind of came up with this one as someone who's like coming up on this band thing. I've been doing it since 2012.
Okay.
Or no, 2010. I'm sorry, 2010. And I want to ask someone that's definitely been doing this a lot longer than I have. Uh, what was the hardest lesson you had to learn being a professional musician slash artist?
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's it's a sort of, you never stop really learning this, but it's really just, it's hard, it's difficult to balance kind of um, staying true to yourself and doing things for the right reason with recognizing the necessity of um, you know, sort of the necessity of the business side of things, you know. When I started doing this, I mean, a lot of things were not things I wanted to do. Like, I didn't want to be a singer, but I wanted to be a backup guy. And then singers kept leaving, so I was like, well, I guess I should become the main singer. I didn't want to play solos, but the other guitar player wasn't playing the kind of solos I like, so I was like, I guess I'll do it fucking solos. And that eventually sort of expanded to like, well, I don't really want to manage the band. I don't want to fucking spend my time booking flights. I want to spend my time like writing riffs. And it's like, well, somebody has to do it. And, you know, eventually, like, so, you know, doing things the DIY way means, you know, that you have to do a lot of the unpleasant stuff as well. You know, sitting there twiddling your fucking thumbs at a merch table, you know, at a Tuesday night show in a VFW hall in Boise, Idaho, 15 people there, and you're like, yeah, we're going to sell a lot of merch tonight. All right, but somebody's. Um,
I'm definitely that guy. I run the merch booth, so
yeah, ultimately, you know, I think it's nowadays it's a lot more understood because born into this like hustle shit, and in the 90s, like, that was not cool at all. Like, the idea, like, look at that fucking idiot, he works his ass off, what a dipshit. Let's go get some 40s, man, just chill. So it was like a like, slacker thing. So you weren't supposed to, even if you were working hard, you weren't supposed to look like you were working hard. It
Right.
wasn't try. Like, that was for fucking works.
yeah.
And that kind of mentality probably held me back a lot, you know. So it's a lot of taking responsibility for stuff that has nothing to do with why you wanted to do this. And that took me a really long time to figure that out. And it's kind of, you just have to sort of learn to adapt. And you also have to learn that maybe even if you're not the person in your band that's good at this, you need somebody that's good at this. You need somebody that cares about microphone placement. You need somebody that's going to sit there going through your fucking cabinets with a flashlight and making sure everything's cool. You need somebody that's going to run a pulse test through your fucking amp to make sure everything's working correctly. I have no interest in that stuff. It bores the living shit out of me. Somebody has to sit there and make a spreadsheet going like, we're driving to this place. That's X amount of miles. Oh, and the fucking, we get X amount of miles to the gallon, you know, gas prices are this, so we can project that we're going to spend this much money on gas on tour, blah, blah, blah. Like, somebody has to sit there and do that. And it's not cool, man. It's like not as fun as like, you know, grabbing your clothes and running out of the trailer park where some chick you're trying to have sex with boyfriend shows up. That's like funny, charming, and cheeky and cute. Rock and roll adventures. Sitting there making a spreadsheet fucking sucks. But better your spreadsheet is, probably the more fun you're going to have on the rock and roll adventure.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, what's your
I-
questions?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's skip the rest of it for me. We only got about 10 more minutes here, so let Eric take care of the rest of
it's all
this.
good. I was just combine to so man, who inspired you to become a musician? And did you get to meet any of your lifelong heroes?
I guess for me, like the main guys as a singer, guitar player, Hetfield was definitely the first, and I've not met Hetfield. People always like, "Oh, wouldn't you love to meet him?" I was like, I mean,
Yeah.
like if I sit down with him like this for an hour and just pick his brain, totally, I would be well into that. But just to go to like a meet and greet and like, hey man, like, man, that seems like a bit silly. Obviously, if I saw him at a bar or on the street, I'd be like, "Hey, man, can I get a picture?" Cool, right on, thanks, dude. But he was definitely the first big one, and then Mille from Creator was a huge one. Chuck,
Oh
Darren from
yeah.
was another big like singing guitar player that I was like, damn. And I always wanted to sing like him and Mille. And when people are like, "Oh yeah, you sound like Jeff Walker," I'm like, "God, great, thanks, dude." Really not what I was going for. Obviously, I love Carcass, and Bill was a big hero of mine as a guitar player for sure. Um, but as a kid, sort of formatively, those were sort of the guys that I patterned myself after. But later on, it opened up as far as like guitar, like I was saying earlier. Uli John Roth or Gary Moore. These kinds of
Blackmore.
these kind of proto metal. You know, dudes that had great phrasing, great voicing, and great vibrato, or John Sykes, who played in.
Hell yeah.
Oh, love John Sykes.
He's one of the ultimate. Adrian Smith, who I'm going to go see tonight. He's actually playing down the
I
street.
know.
Nice.
So, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's a cumulative kind of deal, and unless it's something really specific like gruesome, obviously that's pattern after something. But you watch, and I'm very fortunate to play with really great players. Like Sebastian's incredible, Tom and Pounder is amazing, Dan and Gruesome is amazing, and I learned stuff from those guys as guitar players all the fucking time. So it never ends, and it's sort of cumulative. But those guys kind of started the snowball rolling down the hill.
For sure, man.
All
I
right.
know this one is for Mark. Will there be any more exhumed dead letter files on the YouTube channel?
We need to get back to the YouTube channel because like we kind of started doing shit with it, and then
Just like the sleigh throughs.
right. Well, I had a lot of time early on in the pandemic, and then I did not have as much time.
Right.
One of my things, I have a big like multi-page to-do list here.
Oh God.
And once I sort of cross off some of the urgent stuff, because one of the things I realized after doing the Chuck tribute shows in December, I was like, I really should have kind of gone through and like documented the process of learning these songs and tabbed them out and like created videos, because a lot more people would be interested in how to fucking play the solo to Living Monstrosity than would be like,
Ooh,
check
yeah.
an Exhumed demo. So the YouTube thing is something that I do want to circle back around to, and I'm at a weird point in terms of balancing my time with my career or whatever you want to call it, because I still have a day job. I'm married, um, this and that. I'm like making close. I'm really close to making enough money to where I could quit my regular job. I'm not quite there yet. And my wife and I bought a condo last year, so it's not the time to be like, let's just fly by the seat of our pants and see what happens. So the YouTube kind of stuff, it's like pushed way down the priority list because I always say it's more important to be writing, recording, and playing songs than like explaining how to play songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. We got next,
Alright.
Eric. Ready?
Our final
Well-
question, probably.
Yes, it is. What are the plans for the next Exhumed album? Any thought and like close details on that?
Yeah, we are finalizing all the production stuff right now. The music's been recorded forever. We recorded it. We started in April, and we knew that it wasn't coming out until this year. And obviously we have our own studio, so we did not hurry. I think we started in April and we finished it in July. You know, it wasn't like we were working day in day out that whole time, not even close. But and then I think we got the artwork last November, and so we've been working on the design and all the production stuff, because now with the way the industry is, obviously every release has to have see-through splatter vinyl, black vinyl, red vinyl, this vinyl,
Mm-hmm.
box set with the fucking pamphlet and the monogrammed hanky or whatever. Which is all
I want a monogrammed hanky.
Right.
Heard it here first. Those kind of details that have to get ironed out well in advance, because I don't know if you guys read articles about the production side of the music industry, but
Mm-hmm.
production was already severely backed up. Then the pandemic hit and supply chain, blah blah blah. Adele, whatever. So it's minimum of like 6 months. Once you have everything designed and all the audio done, like 6 months would be the most optimistic turnaround time. And so we're just finishing everything now. We're planning for the record to come out in fall, like October-ish, because we can plan tours and we can probably safely be like, cool, if we have 10 months of lead time, we should have the record in our hand,
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right.
Can't wait.
It's Fitz 526. Come on. You've been waiting so patiently down there in the bottom left. I mean, come on.
Come on, Eric. You got one more. No, you do.
And then leave the chat.
Right. Exactly what I was gonna do. No, I got the funny one. So I heard the story from Ross. How'd you like your hot sauce that you guys made?
I thought it tasted really good, but it gives me fucking really bad gas.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
Like straight, like cartoonish.
Them earthquake shits,
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, and it definitely gives me like a full like evacuation bowel movement. It's really really good on pizza.
Yeah, it is.
We did a first draft that I thought was fucking awesome. It had a very similar flavor, but it was about 60% as hot. Because I mean, I put Tapatio and Cholula and Sriracha on everything, man. Like if I get eggs,
Hell yeah, man.
it goes on everything. So I mean, I'm white, but I'm not like Tabasco white,
Yeah, that's my job.
I was like, holy fuck, dude, this shit's hot. Because the test run that was like normal, like I said, like Tapatio level, hot sauce guy, he's like, well, it tastes great. But he's like, Exhumed is kind of like, an extreme metal band or whatever. So you should probably have like an extreme hot sauce. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. This would be like a kick-ass like Def Leppard hot sauce, like a daily like serve it to your parents kind of hot sauce. If it's Exhumed, it should be like fucking face melting, ass ripping, and for me anyway. It is. Like fuck, man, stronger constitution than I. So.
That shit was great. And it's hella good too.
It is hella good. I've had it with tacos.
Well, I like it with pizza because I feel like the cheese sort of takes some of the extreme heat off.
Yeah, that dairy definitely helps mitigate
the blade a little bit. Hi.
Yeah, that's you. Huh?
One of my favorite Pokemon. Sorry.
Well, it was a pleasure having you, Matt, as always.
Thank you,
good sir.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully, I got through most of the stuff. So.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah, you
that's pretty much.
definitely a lot more than Digester.
All right.
We love you, Digester. If you're watching this.
Yeah, we love you.
Please don't come kill us in our graves.
Please don't.
I tolerate you, Digester, if you're watching this. You're okay.
The only people
right, well.
that can make us a vacant grave is Matt and Exhumed.
All right, so for those that watch our podcast regularly next week, we will be recording. The next episode will be out Friday. That is
Not tomorrow.
not tomorrow. This episode should be out on our YouTube tomorrow for a VOD, and then we'll have the next episode next Friday.
We will catch
See you all then. See you in the pit.
Bye-bye.
Later, guys.